Hiya. In this little presentation, I'm just going to be talking about how I chose a method for my dissertation, and I study sociology just for reference. The first thing I started with was just my topic of interest, and how from other readings and articles, how this topic had been explored previously. So, for example, had it been explored mostly through media analysis or through interviews or quantitative research methods and stuff like that. So I was just referencing other sources to see how this topic had been approached in the past. And this is a pretty good place to start because it gives you an idea of what's a quite appropriate method, and also maybe gaps in research and literature. So maybe if you've noticed that no one's done interviews on the topic you're interested in, then maybe it would be a really fresh and interesting place to do interviews yourself, because it would produce new information and data that you can work with. Another thing I thought about when deciding which research methods to choose was where my strengths were. So in terms of which research methods would I feel the most confident in applying myself, because especially with a dissertation, it's a pretty independent project. Which research methods could I confidently carry out on my own and know that I would complete them to a high standard and go through all the correct processes and come out with a really strong body of work. And so this reflects what I would be most confident in. And also it's really important to think about which methods would actually interest you the most. So for me, I'm more interested in qualitative research methods, but then I also recognised that they didn't necessarily reflect my topic the best. Additionally, when thinking about which research method to choose, you've always got to think about what the aim and purpose of your research is. So, for example, with my research for my dissertation, I sort of wanted to analyse policy and government strategies for, in my case, for sustainable consumption, because that was my focus. And so in that sense, what method would best reflect what I wanted to achieve through evaluation of policy? So for me, that became a desk-based dissertation, and it was basically synthesising other previous research that had been done on the effectiveness of different strategies. It's also really important to think about which method would allow the most critical analysis and exploration. So if you want to critically analyse, for example, the effectiveness of a policy, then potentially, interviews or participant observation, they just wouldn't be appropriate to be able to explore and evaluate policy. So in quite a practical sense, you need to go back to the aims and your purpose and just identify how can I carry those out in the best way possible. Again, when thinking about which methods to choose, the best place to start would always be what have you actually been taught by your course, because every subject uses different methods of analysing data, producing data. So it would just make the most sense to choose one that you've been taught, because that means that you'll get the most support from your supervisors and your lecturers, because they're experienced in the research method that you're choosing for your dissertation. And then also, you're going to be limited by practical things like time constraints, access to participants or information, and even potentially cost. If you're producing your own data, you might need to travel to research certain participants and access certain facilities or environments. And you do have to take that into account, because especially as an undergraduate, you won't have access to all these extra resources like extra time and funding and stuff like that. So you do want to do something which is, the most practical and feasible for an undergraduate student who, in the grand scheme of things, has a fairly limited access to resources, time, participants, and etc. I hope that was helpful. I know that for sociology, a large part of it is research methods. And so for different subjects, you might have fewer options to choose from, and it might be that the only thing you can create in your dissertation is an essay. But even in health sciences and economics and all these subjects you are taught research methods, and so it's good to kind of explore which ones you want to choose from, even if you end up just doing an essay and a desk-based dissertation.